Hey guys, welcome back to nationalhsfb.com. I'm your host, Larry Godwin, and my counterpart in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, as always, is Joe Mamone. Joe, hope you've had a great holiday and headed to a great new year. Listen, Joe, it's been a minute since we've been on, I guess, with a coach since the football season has ended basically nationwide. But we've got a special treat for the folks that are watching this video a little bit later on, because now we're coming back to my home state of the great state of Georgia, and we're going to celebrate a newer coach that I think I have this impression, Joe, that he's just getting started. And guys, I'm talking about the head coach of the Milton High Football Eagles up in the metro Atlanta area, Coach Ben Reaves. Coach, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking a minute out of your holiday to spend some time with us.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to come on and talk a little Milton football.
Joe, why don't you kick us off?
So, Coach, first of all, congratulations on all the great accomplishments. I saw you were just named the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Coach of the Year. Obviously, you had that great run in the playoffs. And you know what pissed me off? You know, I've been a Milton fan for a long time. When I started this company, Prep Gridiron Logistics, back in 2015, your Coach Clack, your predecessor, was one of my first clients, public school clients.
Yeah.
I started this company way back when because a lot of private schools around the country were having a hard time scheduling games. And I remember I met him at the Freedom Bowl. I think you guys played Cardinal Gibbons from Florida that year. And you actually won the first championship that year. And then he called me up in the offseason and said, Joe, I got a great team coming back. I want you to find me the best team ever, the best team you possibly can in your network. So we sent you out to California to play Jay Serra, if you remember.
Yep.
So that's where the relationship started. So I've always had a affection for Milton. And it pissed me off that the day after you won that game, the day after you beat Mill Creek, I'm sorry, Walton, I'm reading headlines and the word Milton stuns or Milton upsets. Or one headline said Walton falls to Milton. I was like, this is bullshit. This is bull. I mean, you would think after what a program has accomplished since 2018, you'd get the respect by now, but it hasn't happened. So, number one, tell us about that whirlwind, that last game, and also maybe even before that, tell us about your history. Obviously, I've read that you're a second-generation head coach, played at Newton High under your dad. Tell us, let us know who Coach Ben Reaves is from a biography standpoint, and then let's talk about that great game to win the 7A championship.
Absolutely, yeah. So as Larry and I were talking about, you know, we've already connected. Just I was born in Valdosta, and my dad and two uncles, you know, played back in the heyday, so to speak, in the 80s, and my dad played at Valdosta State with Jesse Tuggle, and you know, just a bunch of good South Georgia memories and South Georgia connections. So football and sports in general has just always kind of been ingrained in my blood and in my family. It's just what we know. It's what I grew up knowing. You know, in every interview I've walked into, I joke, but I'm not really joking when I say, like, I've never missed a high school practice in my life, except for the time period that I was, you know, in college. And that's so true because I was raised on a ball field. I was the water boy, you know, as early as I can remember, and out there just watching my dad coach and get after it. And it was something that I knew I always wanted to do myself, just based on the fun that I saw him having, the impact that I saw him having just on youth, and just the way that, you know, kids looked at him, kids gravitated towards him, players would pull up to my driveway when I'm in elementary school outside shooting basketball, just popping by to see Coach Reaves. And so that was just something, a feeling and an impact that I always wanted to have as well. And so that's ultimately what led me into the coaching realm. And, went to UGA and was a preferred walk-on there. Had some college offers, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give it a shot. You know, I'm going to put in the same amount of work, whether I go to this school or that school. I'm just going to go to Georgia and see what happens. And was on the team for 2 years, fortunate enough to be on that 2005 SEC championship team. So a lot of good memories from that year. Ended up getting too many concussions, which, I don't think still affect me to this day, but who knows, because we weren't in leather helmets back then,
Right.
but it was whatever was after those is kind of what we were wearing, is what it seems compared to, the equipment we hand out today. But just a good time, good memories, and, got to be around college football and the staff enough to know that I really never wanted to coach college football. I believe in balance. I want to work hard, but also want to have time just with family and friends, and, to be able to experience life. And those college guys, man, they are always grinding, always on the road, always recruiting, always coaching. There really is no downtime. So, I knew early on that I wanted to be at the high school level, and I wanted to get as close as I could to a college football atmosphere and experience, but at the high school level. And, fortunately, my career landed me at Milton. I went back because I was doing grad school at Valdosta State whenever I graduated from Georgia. And so my first coaching job was down in Nashville, Georgia.
What?
Hey, I told my college roommates that I'm moving to Nashville, and they thought that was the coolest thing ever. And then I told them Nashville, Georgia. Their tune changed a little bit. So started. I was at Berrien County for a year, and then just wasn't. I just needed a different environment, a different atmosphere. Going from Athens, Georgia, to Nashville, Georgia, was a little culture shock. So packed up, moved down to the beach. Bradenton, Florida, was at Bayshore High School, which is actually right across the street from IMG.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, they weren't doing football at the time. Not that we would have played them anyway. But did 2 years down in Florida, and then got a call from Coach Kevin Reach, who used to work under my dad, who was the head coach at Collins Hill High School at the time, and told me he had an opening. And, I came back up this way. Just to be honest, it just means more. It just means more up this way. It means more up in the Atlanta area. And going back to me always trying to get into that environment that is close to college football, I packed up and moved back home. And I was at Collins Hill for 6 years and connected with Coach Clack towards the end of my career there. And he, thankfully brought me on to be his offensive coordinator whenever he took the Milton job. It was it was funny just looking back, because at the time, Gwinnett County was the Mecca. If you were winning state, you were coming out of Gwinnett County or South Georgia. That's just the way that it was in the higher classifications. So whenever I, told some of my coaching buddies I'm leaving Gwinnett County to go to Milton, they kind of laughed. That Milton has won 3 playoff games going back to 1950. You're right there in the Mecca of Gwinnett. What are you doing? But, definitely believed in Coach Clack first and foremost and his vision, and believed in just the Milton community and what it had to offer and what I knew we could build. And just so thankful that I took that leap of faith and took that step. And, here I am today, able to talk about it on this podcast. And, to get to your second question of just the game against Walton, it wasn't, and this is no disrespect to Walton. Walton is a great team. I just really love our team, and I've always loved our team, and I always knew what we could do. I always knew what we could be. I always knew what we could accomplish. I always knew that we had what it took to win state, because once you win a state championship like we did in 2018, you kind of know what it takes. You kind of know what you need. You got to have the right players at the right position, and the leadership and the depth, because 15 games is just such a grind, especially in 7A Georgia. So I knew we could do it. And a lot of people wrote us off early on because we had 2 losses. But if you really, analyze those losses, if you really look at the tape, it should be no surprise to anyone that we won state. And the truth is, I think Max Preps rated Georgia 7A the second toughest playoff bracket in the country. And the truth is that there were probably 6 or 7 teams in that bracket that were good enough to be a state champion. Yeah. There really were.
Hey, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Coach, what I love about Georgia high school football is, unlike these other states, like in California, You know, at the end of the season, you know what two teams are playing to be the champion. Same thing in Texas. You know, the same two teams. You could buy your ticket today for Duncanville North Shore next year. You could buy your ticket today for Mater Dei St. John Bosco next year. In your area, there's no clue. I have no idea right now when I start working on my preseason top 25. I have no idea where to even start. I mean, we had Buford up there this year. They lost. We had Mill Creek up there. At the time of your game, the day before you played that championship game, you were ranked as low as number 45 in America by these pollsters, some of the pollsters. Well, some had you in the teens, like 17 to 19. Some had you in the 40s. And you still, you still did what you did, and all the power to you. That's why it pissed me off that the paper still were using adjective like you stunned somebody or you upset somebody when everybody knows in Georgia, any team could beat another team on any given night.
Yeah, we did stun them because they expected to win, as they should. But I don't know that we upset them if you really take time to look at the tape. And that's what's so tough about doing the high school polls and, the job that you guys do is there's just so many high schools out there. There's not enough time to really watch the tape and compare the teams. And so a lot of times you have to look at the records, but you don't really have time to dig into, all right, why does Milton have 2 losses? How can they have beaten, top 20 teams in the country in round 3, 4, and 5, but have 2 losses? And there's just, every season's different. Every season comes with its own set of circumstances, but the end goal is to be healthy and to be peaking when it matters the most. And that's what we were able to do this year. Like I said, there were so many teams that were good enough to win state, but we just found a way to get it done when nobody else did.
Well, guys, I apologize for my shouting outburst a couple of minutes ago when Coach Reaves was talking about his journey through South Georgia. Joe, the reason why I reacted that way is I think after this program, Coach Reaves and I are going to become like virtual blood brothers or something. He grew up in Valdosta, Lowndes County. He's a Valdosta State alum, and he just told me that he spent some time in Berrien County at my high school alma mater. Coach, I played for Berrien High, 1988 graduate of the mighty Rebels, and so I'm thoroughly impressed that you made a journey through South Georgia in your coaching career. So kudos to that.
I don't know if this had an impact on you, but whenever I got to Berrien, the head coach was Ryan Branch, and it was the year that we changed the B logo. So I don't know if you remember when the B logo changed.
We had that crazy bulging B, with the circle
kind of
around
a big deal in the town. I was there that year that all went down.
I got you. So you're the one responsible for that.
By association, guilty by association.
Listen, you talked about you grew up in a football family. You were the water boy. So I'm going to make a water boy Adam Sandler reference since you opened that door. Okay. So given your coaching credentials, your street creds, Joe, it seems like he's tasted some high quality H2O, if you don't mind. As a matter of fact, I would stretch it out, the reference even farther to say that while he's been up in Milton, he's got a highly developed medulla oblongata. How about that for 2 water boy references in the same program? Coach, on a more serious note, Joe referenced the Sports Illustrated headline that says Milton stuns Walton to win Georgia 7A high school football state championship. I'll be honest with you. The high school public in the state of Georgia, you know how rabid we are down here. So everybody knows about 7A football. And we were all expecting Walton to win that game. How did you convince your team that it didn't matter how good Walton is, how spectacular their quarterback, and they do have a spectacular quarterback, and you guys did a very, very good job of shutting them down. How did you convince your team that they could win that game?
Well, thankfully, all you guys that doubted us helped me out. I was the head coach of a team that knew what they were about. They knew what they could achieve, and they took things very personal whenever they were doubted.
Yeah.
So week after week, every time that I would look at the, Maxwell projections or read the headlines and we were an underdog, I felt good all of a sudden because I knew that that's what fueled this team, was just proving everyone wrong. Because like I said, I mean, you look at our roster top to bottom and just all the Power 5 guys that we have and all at every spot. And, to continually be doubted against some of these teams, eventually, for lack of a better term, just pissed our kids off.
Yeah.
And they did play with a chip on their shoulder. And, there was even a week or two to where one or two companies picked us to win. And I messaged them. I said, y'all got to change this. Y'all can't pick us to win.
Yeah.
We are the underdogs, and that's just the way that it is. That's the way it's got to be. So it just we had a mantra, the M versus them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see it written out, there's some complexity to it, but they knew what they were about. They believed in themselves. They believed in their coaches. And every week that somebody doubted us, it just fueled us more.
So, Coach,
Joe, let me ask
go ahead.
a follow-up question real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, we have a mutual acquaintance. All three of us know this person, a guy named Phil Jones at ITG Next. I think you did an interview with him.
Mm-hmm.
So, Phil is a really good friend of mine, and closer to the end of the season, he asked me to co-host a couple of shows, and your former AD, I think his name is Coach Sly.
Yep. Gary Sylvester.
Gary.
Yeah. Would call into the program. And I had a couple of opportunities to interview him on air. And I asked him an interesting question, Coach Reaves. I said, Coach Sly, every coach, every AD going into the start of the off-season workout season, going into spring ball, that kind of stuff, you kind of have an idea of whether you have a good team or a championship team. I said, Coach Sly, what did you expect from your Milton Eagles? And quite frankly, he says, Larry, we thought that we had a good team. We didn't know how good they could be. At what point in the season were you convinced this could be a championship team?
So I knew that, like Coach said, we were a really good team, and we were one of those teams that was going to be in the discussion. And it really came in what I call the money round, which is week 3 of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Colquitt County rolled up, and there was a line in the sand. Do y'all want to be the team that you think and say you can be? If so, you got to go through Colquitt County, because they were one of those teams that were more than good enough to win a state championship.
Yeah.
Hands down,
Very
absolutely. And so at that moment, whenever we won that round 3 game, and we beat a nationally ranked team, we beat a team that, could have called themselves state champions, and you just saw the look in the kids' eyes after the game. That's when I knew that we were going to win. That's when I knew, because we were down in that game twice by double-digit scores, right? And you don't just come back twice from double-digit scores against Colquitt County if you don't have a team that has what it takes to go all the way. So when we were able to do that and then win that game, that's when belief set in throughout the team, coaching staff, community, everyone. And that doesn't mean that there wasn't a lot of that there prior, because there was. But the true belief, the true buy-in, 100% from everyone, is when we won that round 3 game.
Mm. That's awesome, Coach.
Coach, how about when after the 42-27 North Cobb loss, you're 3-2 at that point.
Yep.
Obviously, you went on to win 10 straight games. Did the team have a meeting, or did you guys have a special sit down? Did anything happen after that loss, or was it just you got beat by a better team that night and you just forged on?
It's one of those things that every year, I don't know that we've ever beat North Cobb. I don't think Milton has beat North Cobb since like 1990 something, and that's true fact. I'm not making that up.
Mm-hmm.
Every year we play those guys, they seem to peak when they play Milton. It's the craziest thing. But the good news is that we knew as a team that game was a lot closer than what the score dictated. We had to go for it late in the game. We didn't have any timeouts, fourth down, backed way up, but we're down a score at that point. You got to go for it. You got to go try to win the game. Didn't get it. They punched one in late. So I really hate that is a 2-score game on paper, because when you watch the actual tape, it was a 1-score game all night. And I said going into that game that their running back was the best I've ever seen since I've been coaching high school football.
Wow.
And he went into halftime. We were up. I think he had 100 yards and a touchdown. And heck, he left that game with 4 touchdowns and 325 yards.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and he was that guy that I thought that he was. And just as a team, we didn't tackle well. We weren't as physical as they were. We got bullied around a little bit. We didn't play our responsibilities like we should have. We weren't blocking and moving the ball and taking care of the ball like we should have. So point being, we could have scheduled any team we wanted to in one of those non-region games. And, we schedule the best because we know that we learn from them. They're not losses, they're lessons. And we know that whenever we play those big games and get in those big moments in the playoffs, we're not going to flinch because we've already gone through our growing pains in the regular season. And we went through a lot of growing pains that night. But fortunately, that was our last non-region game. So there wasn't time to sit around and cry about it. We had to get better because region play was starting in our next game. And ultimately, all that matters is winning your region, getting that number 1 seed, and going on a playoff run. Yeah. So as bad as it hurt to lose to them, and the way the bracket's set up, we knew that if we won our region, there was a chance that we were going to get a rematch with them. And we were looking forward to that. Collins Hill ended up beating them in round 1, so we didn't get that rematch that we wanted. But, that we had that little chip of motivation as well. But like I said, there wasn't time to sit around and cry about it. The kids didn't have a team meeting or anything of that nature. We just knew that we had to get better. And it was time to, start focusing on like the fundamentals of football that cost us that game and making sure that we got better throughout region play, doing those things, that we took care of region play and won our region. And we were the best we could possibly be going into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Larry, let me do one more quick question because Coach brought up scheduling.
Okay.
Coach, we're the biggest promoter of high school football games and events in America.
Yep.
Since 2018, you guys in out-of-state games are 3 and 4. And
yep.
based on my records, because I book most of your out-of-state games.
Yep.
However, you have 2 state championships.
Right.
So tell all the a lot of coaches will watch this interview and help me do my job. All right. I need to talk coaches into booking out-of-state games because I tell them these games make you better later in the season. You are proof perfect of this. Okay. Yep. We talked about you lost to Western, right?
Yep.
Down in Florida.
Yep.
Last year, remember, it was Lipscomb and then who? Yep. Thompson? Lipscomb and CBC, Christian Brothers. Yeah.
Yep.
Jay Sarah back in, I think it was 2019, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You beat St. Joe's Prep out of Philly, who finished number 6 in America this year.
Yep.
You beat Life Christian back in the Freedom Bowl. You beat Cardinal Gibbons back in the Freedom Bowl. So you've had your share of great out-of-state competition.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Well, I mean,
tell us why that's important to you.
I took over as head coach 2 years ago, and I look up, and my first 2 games were against Lipscomb Academy, and then I got to go play Christian Brothers.
Yeah.
And the whole community was in uproar, right? Because we're 0-2, and is Coach Ben Reaves ready to be a head coach? And it's like, guys, like they won their state championships in their respective states, and I think Lipscomb finished top 10 in the country, top 15 that year.
Yeah.
And we were a score or 2 away from beating them. So, what it comes down to, like I said, is just you don't want to be tested as a team when it matters the most. You don't want to go through trials and tribulations as a team when it's win or go home. You want to get out of your comfort zone early. you want to find out your strengths and weaknesses early. And the only way, if you want to find out what you're good at and what you're bad at, you better play a team that on paper is a lot better than you are. And you do it early because you have time to correct those mistakes as the year goes along. And honestly, the thing is, after playing some of these top teams in the country and going into some of these hostile environments, when we get back to Georgia, year in and year out, we can always look back and say, look, more times than not, this isn't even the best team we've played all year. Granted, they're a good team in Georgia. Granted, they're ranked in the top 10 in Georgia, and we respect them as a team. But do you guys remember when we played so-and-so? Do y'all remember that team? And we went toe-to-toe with that team. So there's just so many reasons to just put yourself out there. Ironically, this year, us and Cedar Grove went down and played in the Broward County event.
Yep.
And both of us won state championships. Creekside threw themselves out there and went and played Mater Dei.
I booked that game. I booked that game.
And they also played for a state championship in Georgia. So, it's just you put yourselves out there. You teach your kids. You don't want to put your kids in a bad spot, right? We're not just going to play anybody head to toe in the country, because you want to make sure that you're giving your kids a chance to win, a chance to compete, but we'll play close to anybody year in and year out. Now, if we have one of those special teams, sure, we'll go toe to toe, but point being, year in and year out, you strategically want to make sure that you're getting a matchup that isn't just stupid, for lack of a better term, a matchup that, your kids have a chance to win, but at the same time, that it's going to take everything they have to win, and you're going to have to play a great game in order to win. And throughout that game, you're going to go through a lot of trials and tribulations as a team that you can always point back to throughout your season. And like I said, especially when it's win or go home and your season's on the line, you've already learned about yourselves. You've already been put to the fire. You already know what you're about because you played the best in the country.
And Coach, I'm happy to hear that you're going to be doing it again next year. I'm not gonna let the world know, but we know, we're partners with the Broward event. So we already know who you're going to play next season. It's going to be one of the biggest games of the high school football season. That's for sure.
Wow.
So continue to do what you're doing, buddy. You are, when I talk to coaches and I have to convince them to do this, to play good out of state competition, I always use Milton as an example of your successes in doing such. Yeah.
And you know what? It truly, like, if you throw yourself out there, you can truly have a defining moment as a program. Going back to 2018, whenever we played Cardinal Gibbons, that team was laughing at us as we were warming up. And they looked like a Division I college football team. But we were on that night. We played a near perfect game that night, and we were able to beat them. And just the confidence that our program had after that game soared. And you just never know, if you throw yourselves out there, what can happen, not only for your team that year, but for your program.
Coach, I'm going to throw something up on the screen. And I got this image from your website, the Milton Eagles football website. And you probably know what I'm going to put up on the screen. It's kind of funny, but it actually captures, I think, the spirit of Milton. If you're on the inside, that's my takeaway from it. So I'm going to throw this image on the screen, and then I'm going to ask you a question about this. So Milton football, the Kings of 7A.
Right.
So when I saw this, I kind of chuckled, and then I thought about it. And it's like, I went back and looked at Joe a while ago referenced Milton from 2018, because something seems to have happened since 2018. So since 2018, Milton has won 2 state championships, played for another, played in a semifinals and a quarterfinals round. And so one of those state titles was, I think, back in 2018 when you beat my Lowndes Vikings in the semifinals. And then Milton went on to the following week to beat Colquitt County in the state championship game. So something has happened since 2018. So I think this is the perfect image for the Milton football program right now? Because it speaks to the culture, I think, and the way you guys view Milton. It doesn't really matter what the public thinks, but it seems like you guys have a culture issue, not an issue, but a culture thing going on. What's the culture like within the Milton football program?
We're just we're confident in who we are. We're confident in what we've accomplished. We're confident in what we've done. And of course, year in and year out, we get written off.
Yeah.
And we chuckle within our program because when you look at just the last 5 or 6 years, or however long 7A has been a thing, there's not any teams that have really done what we have done. There's
right.
Just not. And there has been some good teams. We don't have the best record, but we're also, if you look at our strength of schedule, like I said, if you go back and look at the games we have lost the past 5 or 6 years, I guarantee you more than 50% of them have come to state champions. And so, it's just, we're just confident who we are. And, we're not afraid to verbalize it. We're not afraid to show it. And it's not about being boastful, but no one else is going to give us credit. No one else is going to give us props, but our kids deserve that. Our community deserves that. Our program deserves that. So we're going to put it out there and show it, because we know we're the only ones that are going to do it and give ourselves any type of credit for whatever reason.
Coach, it's funny. Back when you beat Colquitt in 2018, the headlines, some of the experts in the world of high school football were saying this could be maybe the biggest upset in 7A history.
Yeah.
Now they're freaking saying it again when you beat Walton. So come on, give me a break. When is that going to end? Or maybe you don't want it to end because it fuels you.
I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't. It's kind of become our rallying cry. It's become the chip on our shoulder. And the more we're doubted, the more we like to disprove people. And that's what we've done. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that.
Great. Larry, you're up.
So we're talking about this culture. Coach, Milton is a well-known program. And like you said, there's not, if you take a look at 7A, and after this year, 7A is going away in the state of Georgia. The new highest classification is 6A. So, but if you take a look at the brief history of the highest classification called 7A, there's really no better team on paper anyway, if you look at all the metrics, than the Milton Eagles. So the Eagles are a well-known program in the state of Georgia. Yep. Would you consider Milton now a national brand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're a national brand. People know who we are nationwide. Our record isn't great, but we don't care. We continue to throw ourselves out there and try to play the best. We played everywhere from California to Florida, so, people know who we are, and that's by design. That's one of the things that when Coach Adam Clack came in, he wanted to do was to make Milton a national brand. And so a lot of credit goes to him for doing that. And it's just something that I believed in as well. Whenever I took over as head coach, I wanted to continue. But I just love the fact that we're not one of the big time names. We're not going to be ranked in the top 10 at the beginning of the year for this reason or for that. And our kids and our coaches, our community just continues to win and prove people wrong. And it's honestly more fun that way. I'm going to be honest.
It is. Coach, tell us, Larry, the great thing about this team is they're loaded at the undergrad level. Yeah. I know you had two great seniors in Gatling and Stewart, but your juniors, Wiley, Gia, Luke, Lewis, Redmond, Jones, his junior class is special. That's why I'm so excited for next season and trying to get the Eagles the best out-of-state games I could find them, because I think this could be one of their special teams. So, Coach, tell us more about the kids coming back, some names we may not be familiar with, maybe some sophomores, maybe that are flying under the radar. Who is some kids we should keep an eye out for in 2024?
Yeah, so for one, it is going to be an exciting year next year. As much as I want to be the underdog and I want to be doubted, I don't know how much we will be. But as a coach, that's, I accept that challenge because that's the new challenge for me, because we are condensing down to 6 classifications and we're actually dropping down to 5A.
Yep.
We have by numbers, we have been a 6A school the past 4 years and have petitioned to play up in the top classification. The way it shakes out right now, we're a little over 1,900 kids in our school, and the top 7A schools have over 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we're competing with schools that have twice the amount of kids that we have. But we're gonna just, as a school, as a total athletic, program, decided we're gonna stay in 5A where we belong and compete there. And hopefully we'll have success. Hopefully some other sports will have a chance to have some success playing down where we belong as well. But yeah, I mean, we're returning 17 out of 22 starters. We're returning a very good squad and just a lot of experience. We're returning guys at key positions, and we lost some good seniors, and we're going to miss them. And we lost a lot of productivity, but fortunately, they did a good job of mentoring the young kids and just kind of showing them the ropes. Showing them what it truly means to refuse to lose and what it takes to win a state championship. So, returning 17, you guys know a lot of the names already. I hope that just from us playing 15 games, that a lot of the under the radar kids, such as AJ Benton and Hayden Taminia, who had that big hit on the quarterback in the state game, and Caleb Bell, right, who came up big with some sacks, and guys like Tristan Tip-Payne that'll be able to step up and start, and 2 great running backs, and TJ Lester and Amari Anderson. Hopefully they'll continue to develop and get a little more touches and carries next year. Just so many guys that played pivotal roles, but I can't wait for them to have the chance to be a senior and explode and continue to show on a higher level what they're able to do next year. So it's going to be an exciting year overall as a program. And like I said, exciting to see some kids that did play some, backup roles, minor roles, but are great players, give them a chance to step up and show what they can do. So just looking forward to it all.
Hey, Coach, with the change in the class, are you still going to be able to play those rivalry games of with the local teams like Roswell and what's the other one? Alpharetta?
Yeah. So we're going to be in the region with Roswell. So we'll actually play them game 10, which will be exciting. We'll continue to play Alpharetta. And then for the first time in school history, we're going to play Blessed Trinity.
Cool.
Cool. Yep. A couple miles down the road.
Yep.
Similar to myself, I called up Coach Dudley and he got back to me and he was like, hey, we'll play anybody anywhere. And I was like, Coach, the Milton Blessed Trinity communities are, so tight. Everybody, the kids know each other, and we've never played in school history. We need to get a game together. And he said, let's do it. So we're going to play them next year. So it's going to be a fun schedule. Gainesville and Coach Niblett's in our region. So, definitely a fun region to be in as well. So we're looking forward to all of those things.
Hey, Coach, is that BT game going to be a Milton home game or at BT?
It'll be at BT next year.
Okay. I might, we have our relationship PGO with the Flow Football Channel.
Yep.
So that's a game we may want to broadcast to the masses. So I'll talk to you about that offline.
Absolutely.
Joe, I think that's breaking news on this program tonight because Georgia teams haven't released their schedule yet for the upcoming year. So that's pretty cool to see here that Milton's going to be at Blessed Trinity.
You heard it here first. Still not going to release who we're playing down in Miami because that's going to be a battle.
It's going to be a highly ranked South Florida team. That's all I can say.
And we're still
two great quarterbacks.
Still planning out the Freedom Bowl and who we're going to play there. So, we're not able to release our schedule just yet anyway. But when we do, I promise it'll be a good one.
And, Coach, I still have a couple of opportunities up my sleeve. I'm going to pitch your way. All right.
Yep.
Just to look at and consider.
Okay.
Joe, I can hear it now going into the summer workout season, the fall camps, that kind of stuff, because of the reclassification in the state of Georgia and Milton going from the highest class to 5A. Coach, you're going to have some built-in naysayers saying Milton's dropping down a class, that kind of stuff. But Joe, check out who they're going to be in class 5A with. They're going to be in 5A with recent state champions, Lee County, Thomas County Central. Warner Robins has had a lot of success recently. Gainesville is a up and it's a train that's coming, and I think Coach Reaves understands what I'm talking about. So you're going to have some pretty big, heavy hitters in 5A. So I don't expect 5A to be a softball or a walk in the park at all, Coach. And I think you think that as well. But
I'll be surprised whenever Max Preps does the playoff bracket rankings if Georgia 6A and Georgia 5A is not in them, because there are some heavy hitters in both. So it's welcome to Georgia, right?
Absolutely. So you go from a pretty tough region in 7A to next year in 5A. You're going to have Chattahoochee. This is Region 7 5A. Chattahoochee, Gainesville, Johns Creek, Lanier, Milton, Roswell, and Seckinger. I'm not familiar with Seckinger, but all those other teams are high quality programs. So, Coach, you're not going to have any rest for the weary in region play. So I can't wait to hear your non-region schedule.
So Seckinger is a new school in Gwinnett County. So, they're going to, be good and have plenty of talent to choose from. And, with that region, everything inside of me says, don't schedule all these national games. Don't schedule these big time teams. But everything I know from where we were to where we are today, that's what got us here. I truly believe that that's been a big reason why we are so successful in the playoffs. So, I told the coaches, I told the administration, despite the fact that we're in a tough region, we're still going to schedule some tough non-region games. At the end of the day, our kids will be fine with it. They'll play anybody. If our record isn't what people think it should be, I'm the adult. That's for me to deal with, and I'll deal with that. But I do have the vision of why we're doing it and why we need to do it. And so we're going to continue to play the best out of region and now in region too.
Well, Coach, you're going to have, from my count, you're going to have 6 region games. You've told us Blessed Trinity is non-region. Come on, man. Just go ahead and give us the remaining 3 teams.
I've told you Alpharetta.
Okay.
That's a rivalry game. And then the other 2, I can't quite say yet, but one will take place down in Miami. And it's truly going to be a blockbuster event. It's going to be a big time deal. And then still, trying to get the Freedom Bowl solidified at Milton High School, where we will play someone from out of state. Haven't hammered down who yet, but those 2 games that you don't know will be big time games. They'll be game 1 and 2 back-to-back big time games. And of course, in Milton and Coach Reeves fashion, I've scheduled our fall scrimmage against Buford. So there's no rest for the weary early on. Yeah, Buford coming to our place to scrimmage us in the fall. So, but it for these first 2 games, especially this game 2 game that we can't disclose yet, and then game 1, you better show up ready. You better show up ready, because there's some heavy hitters coming our way.
I love it, Joe.
That's great. Now, Coach, I'm done with my questions. It's a treat following the program. For like I said, we started our relationship with Coach Clack in 2018, and I'll still say I've 2 most proudest moments as a promoter. First moment, I sent a small school out of Richmond, Virginia, Life Christian, down to Texas one year. Nobody ever heard of this team, and they beat Cibolo Steel, one of the top Texas teams, shocked the world down there. And the other win was you going up St. Joe's Prep in Philly and beating them. Yep. Those are 2 of my proudest moments as a promoter, where I sent these teams to places they'd never been before, and both of them shocked the world. That, in my opinion, is the biggest out-of-state win for a Georgia team in the history of high school football, as far as I know. I mean, you're talking about a team from Pennsylvania, always number one in Pennsylvania, and always a top 10, 15 team annually.
Well,
They finished in our poll number 6 this year.
Thank goodness Marvin Harrison Jr. graduated before we got up there. Because that guy, he was
don't forget,
handle.
Don't forget the quarterback, McCord.
Yep,
from Ohio State, now at Syracuse, was there too.
That's right. But, the truth of the matter is, with those out-of-state games, we had nothing to lose, but we had everything to gain.
Mm-hmm.
You go up and you lose to that team, everybody says you should have. That's what should have happened. You go up and beat them, and your program can change. Your kid's mindset can change. So that's why we do it. There's nothing to lose, everything to gain.
Yeah. Keep doing what you're doing. You as a promoter, I couldn't. You're the one of the best clients we have because, you're not afraid. There's so many these huge teams out there that finish in the top 5 every year, and I work with them, and I hear a lot of times we will not play this team. We don't want to play that team. It's like bring it on, and as a promoter, that's what we love.
Well, some coaches don't want blemishes on their record, but I promise you, if we don't lose games in 2018, if we don't lose 2 games this past season, we don't win state.
Right.
We learned so much from those losses, so much, and just we were just better. We were just better because of it. So you just got to throw yourself out there, and if you get a couple of blemishes on your record, that's fine. Just try to make up for it at the end of the season when it really counts.
Yep. Coach, final question for you. Joe, this is really a question for our national audience that doesn't know much about Georgia high school football as far as, logistics and we just had our state championship game back in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which was a treat for the state of Georgia. But something that the GHSA did for the first time this year was used instant replay in the state championship game.
Yep.
As a head coach, how did you feel about that? Was it rolled out pretty smoothly? How did it affect your game?
Yeah, it was rolled out pretty smoothly. It didn't make it on TV, but I did chunk the challenge flag about 40 yards one play when DeBron caught a touchdown in the corner of the end zone and didn't quite get ruled a touchdown. But it definitely gives you comfort as a coach because with everything on the line, it does take some potential human error out of it. And those guys that are officials and refs, man, they have such a tough job.
Yeah,
it's impossible to see everything. It really is. And we forget that as coaches sometimes. But just having that replay system there for us definitely gave you a sense of comfort. And, like I said, still, if you think that you saw something differently as a coach and you want to, stand on that hill, you got that red flag you can throw out there anytime but the last 2 minutes of the first half and the second half. And, it definitely helps. It's definitely beneficial. It's not something that you can do for every game, but I do appreciate that they did it for those state games when everything was on the line.
Gotcha.
Yep. They learned the hard way from that Cedar Grove game.
That's right.
They sure did.
Right.
They sure did.
Yes, they did.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap up our brief conversation with head coach Ben Reaves of the Milton Eagles up in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And Coach Joe, I think tonight was a treat. It really was. This was a refreshing conversation, especially after we've kind of withdrew from or having the withdrawal symptoms from high school football for a couple of weeks. So, Coach, you're welcome back anytime to National High School Football. And guys, if you enjoy this conversation, you don't have to stop. Even though football season is coming to an end, you can join us on a year-round 365 conversation at our website, nationalhsfb.com. Just register for a free account, jump in. Joe and I will be there having a great time talking about high school football. So, Coach, thank you so much for joining us, and we're going to wrap up the program. And listen, best of luck in 2024.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me. I really do. Had a good time tonight. Always a pleasure to talk Milton football. So hopefully we'll get a chance to do it again sometime soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, guys.
Stay well. Happy New Year.
Yes, sir. You too.